What we think about bees depends on our worldview. Now, VCY America presents Worldview Radio with Brannon House.
And welcome. Glad you're with us. The big story today, of course, is that Joe Kent has resigned as the director of national counterterrorism, the director of the National Counterterrorism Center, citing that he just cannot stay in an administration fighting a war with Iran when Iran poses no threat. Well, I don't think that's true for many reasons. Now, I interviewed Joe Kent a few years ago, and I'll play that clip for you. We're going to go through some of the information related again to Iran, and that I believe it does pose a threat to America. Now, does that mean I want to see boots on the ground? Does that mean I want to see a Middle Eastern war? No, I don't. But that doesn't mean that Iran is not a threat. We went through the Rapid Response 47 files, over a week ago, showing going back to the mid-'80s, I think around 1985, with the Iranians behind the hijacking of the TWA flight and the U.S. Navy diver being shot and then shoved off the plane onto the tarmac, killed. And we went through just a laundry list of decades and decades and decades of Iranian-sponsored terrorism. We know they're one, if not the largest sponsor of terrorism funding around the globe. Have we forgotten October 7th? Have we forgotten that we have Iranian terror cells here in the U.S.? And really, we get confused with a lot of the names, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, all these different names. And that's a big distraction because they're all fighting really for the same concept and idea. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. I'll set aside some Shia and Shiite issues and theology to go after our shared enemy. And Iran is right in there with a lot of these groups. We know that. They're working with Hamas, for instance. So I don't think you can say that Iran is not a threat. I want to have Annie Cyrus on to discuss this. I also want to play some clips by the late Dr. Peter Vincent Pry, head of the EMP task force. We produced his TV show right here from this desk, from this room, from this studio, as well as his weekly radio broadcast. We have some clips. I don't think we're going to be able to play all of them for you in this broadcast today. I'll probably play more for you tonight on Brannon House Live. But Peter Pry was saying so long ago what a threat Iran did indeed pose to America. You guys might remember my reporting on this topic right here. Iran just tested, this is back in 2024, Iran just tested a ship-based missile fired from a shipping container. We also, if we can find it in our archive, have a video of this. We have a video of Iran, one of their IRGC guys, showing off this launching system on the deck of a container ship and bragging about it. You go back to my 2018 documentary, Sabotage, you'll see the whole segment I've done on the Club K cargo missile launching system out of Russia. Russia. So I don't know why he would say that Iran is not a threat to us. Now, I did find a video from, 2 years ago? Joe Kent on Tucker Carlson's program. And how Joe got into the Trump administration is a little troubling. If he was out there with his views about Iran, why was he allowed into the Trump administration? You say, well, maybe he didn't know that Trump was going to go after Iran. Actually, we have clips from Donald Trump going back many years, talking about how he would deal with Iran. So again, I'm not sure how he got into this job if he wasn't on the same side as the Trump administration going in, because he said this, what you're about to hear on the Tucker Carlson show, 2 years ago. Listen to this.
Immediately, it would be very bloody. I have no doubt that we could probably defeat some of their air defense and go in there and have another shock and awe campaign. But again, like we saw how the shock and awe campaign in Iraq really didn't actually work in the long run. So I have no doubt that we'd have some immediate results that people would cheer about here in the United States. But Iran, Persia has always been an empire. It's been around longer than any of the other players in the modern Middle East right now, and they are not going anywhere. And right now, Iran has a lot of internal problem. They have a lot of internal strife with the Ayatollah and that government that's only been in power since 1979. But again, if we start conducting strikes in Iran, everyone in Iran will rally around their leader and they will become even more revolutionary. And then we will have Iranian proxies throughout the entire region that will be conducting attacks just like we had in Jordan. And really, in the long term, Tucker, the axis that has been built really since Putin invaded Russia and we decided that since Putin invaded Ukraine and we decided we were going to throw this massive sanctions package at them, China has come in as a major player and we are deeply compromised by China. They control a lot of our economy. They control global manufacturing. They're deeply embedded in Wall Street. And they've also made deals with the Iranians. They want access to Iranian petro, not to mention the fact that Biden killed off U.S. energy independence and now he's going after LNG, and the world's biggest LNG exporters are Iran, Russia, and Qatar. So this axis would become very powerful. If we get deeply involved and deeply entangled with Iran, we are playing right into China's hands because China would like nothing more than for us to be committing our military industrial base to a war in Eastern Europe, in Ukraine, and then to be committing our conventional military power, our blood and our treasure back in the Middle East. That will make the Pacific, our actual border, extremely vulnerable to Chinese aggression, or China will simply just watch us bleed out economically as we bleed out on the battlefield on these couple different theaters. It's absolute insanity. It's opening up Pandora's box. And again, for what gain to the American people?
Okay. Now, I'm not saying I disagree with him. I think in regard to China, I think China would love to see us bleed out economically and physically our troops, get us involved and tangled up in a lot of places. I don't think he's wrong on that. But I don't think he's accurate when he talks about the people. All we're going to do is cause the people to rally around their leaders. That's exactly the opposite of what we've seen. This revolution that they were fighting for in Iran actually started with the people. And 30,000, we're told, maybe as many as 80,000 Persians, Iranians, were willing to give their life. So that actually is not true, that part. I'm not going to discount everything he's saying there. I told you the part I agree with, that we have to be careful of. But this idea that the people are going to rally with their leaders, no, to the contrary. In fact, it seems as though Iran has actually been infiltrated by a ton of people on the ground giving out information about the regime, including what has now been the taking out of one of the major leaders in Iran. We'll get to that in this broadcast. The one who I think was largely responsible for the mass slaughter of tens of thousands of Persians and Iranians in this last battle on the streets of that country. It's the people that are giving coordinates and giving information to the Israelis as to where these players are. Now, he went on to say, well, look, you've got Iran in a relationship with China, with Russia, and he went on to mention the things they're doing. Well, doesn't that, and that we're infiltrated by China. I don't agree with him. I don't disagree with him on that. I do not disagree. We are infiltrated by China here in America. But if Iran and China and Russia are heavily all integrated, how can you say in your resignation letter, Mr. Kent, that Iran poses no threat to America? You just described how they're all interconnected. They're all playing economically, militarily on the same team. We know that Russia is involved. We've got Alexander Dugin, who we've been dealing with all week, talking about the need to create division in the U.S., internal disorder in the American system, politically, racially, extremist-wise, pit the America first only, i.e. the isolationists, as they're called, some of them, with the neocons or even straight-minded conservatives that do recognize some of these threats, who think maybe we should try to prevent a preemptive strike. Pit them all against each other. Well, this is, of course, adding to that, because today out on social media, you got the players, Megyn Kelly. What's that woman's name? The former unbeauty queen. I'm not going to call her a beauty queen because I don't think she was ever a pretty girl. The not beauty queen. What was her name? Carrie what? Blue Jeans? Prejean? She's out there. They're all congratulating Joe today. Well, the Russian strategy, the Alexander Dugin strategy is working very well. But Iran is a threat from this and Dr. Peter Vincent Pry, CIA analyst, retired from the CIA, sat at this desk telling us over and over what Russia and China and Iran were doing. And he said, look, Iran already has a bomb. The question is, how many will they get? Well, there are reports that we just kept letting them go, they're going to end up with something like 8,000 of these missiles. Now, you could agree or disagree with that. But reality is, they have a nuclear weapon already. They're after more than one, I can promise you that. And they are involved with Russia. And Russia, of course, does have the Club K cargo launching missile system that may already be stationed around the country, but can clearly be brought into the Gulf of America and launched. We've done incredible programs on that. Let's not forget, there's overwhelming documentation that the hijackers, the Saudi hijackers of 9/11, were training on flight simulators in Iran. How can we say Iran is not a threat to the country or even an imminent threat? They are an ongoing, nonstop threat. Then you have the issue of EMP, electromagnetic pulse. So I'm not sure what has led to this resignation letter and stating as he did about Iran. Let me go to a clip of President Trump today. President Trump has commented. I thought I had the clip here of President Trump commenting on his resignation. Let's see. Yeah, I do. Here it is. So many tabs open. Here's President Trump on this. Here we go.
Your director of national counterterrorism, Joe Kent, he just resigned today. He said he can't support your conflict with Iran. What's your reaction to that? And did you?
Well, I read his statement. I always thought he was a nice guy, but I always thought he was weak on security, very weak on security. I didn't know him well, but I thought he seemed like a pretty nice guy. But when I read his statement, I realized that it's a good thing that he's out, because he said that Iran was not a threat. Iran was a threat. Every country realized what a threat Iran was. The question is whether or not they wanted to do something about it. And many people, many of the greatest military scholars are saying for years that presidents should have taken out Iran because they wanted a nuclear weapon. They were, if we didn't do the attack, or if, I'll go a step further, if I didn't terminate the Iran nuclear deal given to us, one of the worst deals ever made by Barack Hussein Obama. Remember when they sent Boeing 757s over there?
And we'll be right back with Annie Cyrus, born and raised in Iran. Don't go away.
News is moving faster than ever, and so are we. Worldview Tube brings you 24/7 live stream coverage and now real-time alerts when it matters most. Once you have the Worldview Tube app installed, exit the app and navigate your way to Settings. In Settings, locate the tab labeled Notifications. Select the Notifications tab. Scroll down until you locate the Worldview Tube app icon. Select the tab, and here you can turn on and customize your notification experience for the Worldview Tube app. News doesn't wait, and neither should you. Turn on push notifications to stay informed. Every headline as it happens.
You're watching Worldview Tube, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brannon House.
at worldviewradio.com. Many people are confused by this resignation because apparently Joe Kent has a track record of being someone that supports the nation state of Israel. So what has changed? Is this really about Iran, or is this just his excuse for resigning before he was fired? I'm just asking questions. I'm not making statements, because there are comments out there and there is speculation out there that Joe Kent was leaking. I'm just telling you what's out there, folks. In fact, I'll even play a clip on this. I think I've got a clip where they're talking about this over at Fox News today on the couch. So I don't know, was he about to be fired? Was this just a way to save some face? Because it doesn't seem consistent. Wasn't Joe Kent, the one also warning that Iran, they wanted to target President Trump for elimination? Did he not warn about that? We're checking into that, because I think that's, if my memory serves me right, guys. So I don't know. But I know a lot of people are caught by surprise, and they're a little shocked by this. Here's what they're saying over at Fox News this morning.
Allegation that his decision was based on the influence of others, even foreign countries, is both insulting and laughable. Now, our own Aisha Hasni, reporting that on background to a senior administration official, says that Joe Kent was cut out of POTUS intelligence briefings months ago due to allegations of suspected leaks, and that he has not been a part of any Iran planning discussions or briefings at all, which sort of posed the disconnect addressed earlier this morning by the administration, saying that he wasn't privy to the classified information that indeed underscores and proves, provides the evidence that Iran was nuclear empowered or about to be. And final quick point, that I've referenced Joe Kent's testimony on the Hill many times in 2025 of the 18,000 known terrorists that came through the southern border under the Biden administration's watch in the prior 4 years.
Yeah, and we played that clip last night, where he was warning of the 18,000 ISIS and al-Qaeda-tied terrorists. Now, are we to believe that Iran has not had anything ever to do with ISIS or al-Qaeda? Again, don't let these names confuse you. I think, again, a lot of the names they throw out there, these different groups, are meant to do just that. Because most people will have their eyes roll back in their head and say it's too much to keep up with, who these groups are, what they believe, who their leader is, what doctrine they follow, what eschatology they follow. It's too confusing. I don't care. Can't keep up with it. And people check out. Quit thinking about all the names. We already saw that Iran was more than happy to work with Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia are your Sunni, Iran are your Shiite, and they were more than happy, apparently, to work together to carry out 9/11 with the Saudi hijackers practicing according to documented facts on flight simulators in Iran. So don't let the Sunni, Shiite names and everything else and classifications confuse you. They're more than happy to work together and set aside their differences to defeat the infidels. Joining me now is Annie Cyrus. Annie, what do you make of my opening monologue today?
I agree with pretty much everything you said. And I do believe this resignation was not just about a resignation.
I don't either.
Another thing I think about is, Brennan, what if all the warnings we're getting, everything we've been discussing this week, somebody could resign. Now, again, I don't know. I don't like the tone he put in. I take it as not being pro-Israel. But putting that aside, what if I would think what's coming, and I'm aware of what's coming, it's going to be too disastrous for my career. So let me resign before the big jihad attack happens, and I will be pointed out as the failure of counterterrorism, director of counterterrorism. So I'm just going to resign, come up with the excuse that's the fashion today, because blaming Israel for what's happening has become the narrative. I literally just finished, a few minutes before joining you, I finished producing a show I produce every day. I'm not the host of it, but I think it was the longest agonizing 1 hour, 40 minutes of production I've ever produced on how much anti-Semitism and anti-Israel narrative was being pushed, as far as calling this, Brennan, the guest called it literally the sentence was, this entire Iran war is fake news psyop because Israel wants such, and such. So with that being said, maybe that's the mindset. Maybe being the director of counterterrorism department, he knows the attack we're about to face, and he figured it's better to take cover than face it. Again, possibilities.
And maybe that's the case, or maybe he's been cut out. He's basically staring at the walls. He's been cut out of intelligence briefings. They thought he was leaking, according to the reports we're hearing, and he was maybe on the verge of being fired. And this was an easier way to go out and try to save some credibility and go back and try to run for Congress for the second or third time. I don't know. But he sits there and says Iran doesn't pose a threat, but he's reportedly been cut out of any of the briefings and intelligence related to Iran. So on what basis is he making that? Is it information from 3 months ago, 6 months ago? I mean, new information pops up all the time. If he's been cut out of national security briefings in the last 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks, well, then, a lot can happen in 8 weeks. Plus, how do you have a director of national counterterrorism who doesn't get secured briefings related to one of our biggest enemies? He's pretty useless, is he not?
He is. And again, I apologize. It seems like I always pick on Trump, but based on what Trump just said on the video you played, how do you not know much about the guy, but he works in your administration?
Well,
not as your errand boy.
On security, if you thought he was not very good on security, why would you keep him around?
Because he seemed like a nice guy. That was literally what he said. I always thought he's a nice guy, but he should have never get the job. Or if he got the job and he's cut off from all briefings, he should have been removed. To even give him, even if this is the scenario, to give him enough time to resign on his own just goes back to prove what we've been saying right here on your network for so many years. The people of America, we are on our own regardless of administration. This is not a good look. I mean, the response by President Trump doesn't give us a good look either. Again, this wasn't some low-level job. This is our national security. This is safety of Americans, right? Why are we taking it so lightly on who's hired? We know they're not as strong. We know apparently they don't have the same ideas as the administration. They're not aligned with our allies. And we still let them run for, I think, more than a year. Yeah, I don't know. Since I heard the news, I'm very concerned, Brannon. This one resigned. How many other people in the administration have his mindset or have been cut out due to possible leak, and we don't know about it? I don't have much faith in our administration today, based on this news.
Let's go to the issue of Iran being a threat, an imminent threat. I got some clips by the late Dr. Peter Vincent Pry I want to play. But before I do, we heard in that statement from 2 years ago when he was on Tucker Carlson, the relationship between Iran, Russia, China, and that China is all over the U.S. Well, by that very nature, if they're united and Russia's all over the U.S., that means Iran is also a threat because they're all working together and sharing information together. So I don't know how you could say they're all working together and China's all over the U.S., but Iran's not an imminent threat, number one. Number two, he does say, and I agree with that part of it, we have to be careful. We were saying this long before President Trump got his second term. We got to be careful not to be stretched all over the globe as our enemies want us to, so that our military is so stretched we're easily defeated at home or economically. We already know they're doing an economic war on us through the BRICS banking system, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and all the other nations have joined. So I agree with that part of it. But that being said, how can you say Iran is not an imminent threat when we know, and I think he has to know, that Iran already has at least one nuclear weapon, if not more. We know it's a matter of public record that they were training the hijackers of Saudi Arabia on flight simulators in Iran. We know for decades they've been carrying out terrorist attacks around the world and against American soldiers since at least the mid-'80s, if not to mention what started in the 79. Then you add in the video we have and the information we have about putting missile launchers on cargo ships. I mean, then go to the funding of terrorism, October 7th. And you agree that there is really no daylight between Iran and ISIS and Al-Qaeda, correct?
Yes. Yes.
And did we have him say to us 18,000 terrorists in the U.S. that are tied back to ISIS and Al-Qaeda? Well, doesn't that again prove that Iran is here through ISIS and Al-Qaeda?
Yes, but we already, okay, so let's put China and Russia completely out of the conversation for a minute. Iran, since 1979, under the Islamic regime, has been an imminent danger to the United States of America. And the proof is in my Substack over and over and over. The problem, Brandon, is a lot of Americans, including our officials and leaders and government-involved officials, they don't see it because, thanks to Israel fighting Iran in the Middle East for 47 years, we haven't got the real taste of it yet. That's where the line gets blurred for them. That's when they say we're fighting Israel's war. That's when they don't even have the comprehension that Israel's been fighting our war for us for 47 years. We're finally catching up with what we should have done years ago, decades ago. That's the problem. The Iran regime, the Islamic regime, have proven over and over, with or without Russia and China, with their patience and their soldiers, they will gradually do what they need to do. They will kill anybody and everybody, as you said, who's an infidel. But we have had this wonderful shield named Israel. Israel kept taking the hit by either directly from the regime and IRGC or their money funding their proxies. So we never understood. People like Joe don't understand tangibly what an imminent danger Islamic regime is to America as long as Israel is standing in the middle for us. They have turned themselves and their country into a shield. So my biggest frustration, not just with Joe, but everybody else, is stop saying we're fighting Israel's war. This is ours. But for 47 years, American government was too much of a coward to man up and stand up. At least justice for everybody from 79 until today, every American, just Americans who have lost their life to Islamic Republic of Iran's regime. That's a differentiation we can make in America.
Let's see here. I've got a new screenshot my crack team in the control room just found. We'll deal with that when we come back. A brand new screenshot. This is a lady that ran against him, Heidi St. John. I don't know her, but she just posted 3 hours ago. President Trump's director of U.S. National Counterintelligence Center, Joe Kent, has resigned in protest over the war in Iran. I ran against Joe for Congress in 2022. I tried to warn Republican voters that Joe was no true conservative. His ties to Nick Fuentes, really? Can we research that a little bit, guys? His vote for Bernie Sanders and his voting history alone demonstrated that he would not have represented Republicans well in Congress. Get to that and more. But take his own words, 18,000 terrorists in the country. Studies have shown America's water supply is not safe. It is filled with toxins and chemicals. Go look it up. This is fact. Fact check me. And then I'll offer you this solution. Worldviewwater.net. Take a look at this list. This water purifier removes all kinds of harmful toxins like lead, fluoride, chlorine, arsenic, pesticides, bacteria, and pharmaceuticals, and more. This is the water I give to my 3 dogs. I drink it every day. I have one of the filters in my kitchen, under the kitchen sink, and then I have one on my shower. Do you know how much your skin absorbs of water when you're in the shower each and every day? Protect yourself and your body. Remain healthy. Eat good food. Drink purified, clean water. One of the most powerful water filters available in America. Worldviewwater.net. That's worldviewwater.net. Again, tell your family and friends about it. In fact, maybe even give this as a gift to some of your family and friends, particularly those of you who have children and grandchildren. Worldviewwater.net. All right, welcome back. Glad you're with us. Worldview Radio, our website, worldviewradio.com, worldviewradio.com. By the way, be sure you have our app. Apparently, whenever I mention this, I am told by our guys that tons of you get the app and turn on the notifications. So if you don't have our free app, they're available. And by the way, my Red Alert rocket app is going off one after the other. Israel was warned. Israelis were warned tonight to be on the lookout for a massive attack coming in from Iran. We'll monitor that. We may need to grab Aaron here in a minute. We'll see what's going on. But my Red app is going off. Red Alert app is going off. But a lot of you have gotten that app, and it is a free app for radio and television and articles. Worldviewtube.com/APPS for iPhones, Androids. Worldviewtube.com/APPS. Be sure to turn on notifications. With all the breaking news going on in the world, sometimes we have to break in when it's not our normal broadcast schedule. And many of you miss out because you don't know we're going live. Well, if you have the Worldview Tube app with notifications turned on, you will get a push notification that we just went live. So again, you can get it free of charge. Worldviewtube.com/APPS. All right. Heidi St. John says she just put this out 3 hours ago, says she ran against Joe Kent for Congress in 2022. She tried to warn Republican voters that he was not a conservative. His ties to Nick Fuentes. I don't know what she's talking about there, guys. Have we found anything where he's tied to Nick Fuentes? We have a video bookmarked. Have we vetted it for language? All right, we'll vet it for language. She says he voted for Bernie Sanders, and his voting history alone demonstrated he would not have represented Republicans in Congress well. During our race, Joe was offered repeated airtime on Tucker Carlson's show. When I tried to get equal coverage, I was denied even one interview. Things are looking clearer by the minute. I expect an interview with Tucker will be the next thing we see from Joe. Now, she claims his anti-Israel roots run deep, and I'm seeing that from Alan Dershowitz right now on social media. Others are saying, well, he was kind of pro-Israel in some ways. So again, maybe he was playing both sides of the fence. But this lady, Heidi St. John says that when I lost the primary to Joe, I backed him in an effort to unite Republicans and keep the seat from being lost to Democrats. This is a true betrayal of those who worked hard to put Joe into a position of influence and authority. Trump honored Joe by putting him in charge of protecting us from terrorism. In return, Joe took issue with a no boots on the ground 2-week offensive that is wiping out most of the effective terror regime in the last 50 years. My phone is ringing off the hook with calls and texts from people who knew who Joe was. I only wish Trump could have seen it. Joe's decision to backstab the president and denounce Trump as someone who can be bought by a foreign country is shocking and embarrassing. Now, I did have a few opportunities to interview Joe. One of them was in person. Can we get to that clip, guys? Here we go. Let's play that clip. Me with Joe in person at CPAC in Dallas, I believe it was. Listen to this.
One of the things we were talking about during the break is the endless wars in nation building.
Absolutely.
I mean, you were in the Green Berets for a lot of years. You did 11 tours.
Yep.
What is your whole take on what we've been doing with our military, not untying their hands? We got to let the warfighters fight. We got to let them win, accomplish an objective, and get out.
So, I mean, by and large, we've really been led astray by our policymakers and by our politicians. So right after 9/11, we went to war for all the right reasons. We had to go and strike back against al-Qaeda. But shortly thereafter, we diverted into wars of regime change and into nation building. So right after bin Laden and Zawahiri escaped into Pakistan, who we send foreign aid to, we stopped. George Bush said he was going to start this new nation building idea, that we're going to build a nation in Afghanistan, and that somehow was going to be in our national security interest. He could never fully articulate that. He spoke in very rosy language about democracy and sending little girls to schools, and that was supposed to be something that the whole U.S. military is supposed to get behind. Shortly thereafter, we launched another war based on lies. We now know, WMD in Iraq, that whole set of lies. And then we went about regime change, getting rid of Saddam, and then nation building all over again. The problem is the entire left and right, the uniparty, really bought off on this. And so you have people like Joe Biden, who is obviously in the left. He was against George Bush, but he went along with these wars too. And so now you have this bipartisanship of benefiting from the wars as the military-industrial complex does. But
like Eisenhower warned about in his farewell address.
Eisenhower warned about. But then you have these political leaders who are just deeply wed to this failed ideology, and they're too full of hubris to just say, hey, wait a sec, we got it wrong. We thought this one thing, and it turned out that did not work, and we're going to change course. We're going to get our troops out. They've never had the humility to just say that. And that's just something that I think only political leaders can get away with. Because if we mess up in our personal lives, if you start a business and it doesn't make any money, there's no return on investment, well, it fails. You can't just continue to double down on failure unless you're in the government and you're sacrificing our precious blood and our precious treasure overseas in wars of no gain. So I'm not an isolationist. I don't believe that we should be nation building. I don't believe we should be doing peacekeeping missions. If there's a actual national security threat, we should go in and we should crush that threat. We should be able to clearly state what that threat is, why it's a threat to the United States, what our plan is for victory, and then what our plan is for exit. That's incumbent upon our elected officials to not just let our precious military be bled out overseas and for our country to be overextended overseas.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that. Now, obviously in the political and geopolitical world, things get very heated, okay? I mean, the guy, I think, did 11 tours, got multiple awards. His wife, the mother of, I think, 2 of his children, perished on the battlefield, murdered by ISIS. So I want to keep all of this in context. You know, you got to give credit where credit is due. Okay? So you can disagree with people, and you can disagree quite strongly, but at the same time, I want to be respectful and appreciate his service to the country and sacrifice to the country. Here's a clip, I guess Tucker Carlson interviewing Nick Fuentes, where this all comes up. Here we go.
Like, take Joe Kent, for instance. I supported Joe Kent, and I talked to Joe Kent. I got introduced to him by Matt Braynard. Matt Braynard went to my conference in 2021. He bought a table.
Was he his campaign manager?
He was.
Okay.
Or he was a consultant, but he was on the campaign, yeah. And so I met Matt Braynard. He liked me a lot. He loved my conference in February 21, which he bought a table at for his organization, Look Ahead America. And in 2021, we, and by we, I mean my nonprofit and myself and my team, we wanted to support America First candidates in the midterms. Like you said, authentic opponents.
Me too.
Yeah. And
that's how I found Joe Kent.
Yes. And so I met a lot of the people in that sort of scene, like Ryan Gerdusky, I know, is very supportive of Joe Kent, and other people that are more private, I don't want to name, but they put me on, not just to Joe Kent, but Patrick Witt in Georgia, Gibbs in Michigan, a lot of different people. And Joe Kent was one of them. And I had a phone call with Joe Kent. And I told him, I had my assistant on the phone too, who's Jewish, by the way, just because I want you to know I'm cool like that. You know, I don't judge. But so I'm on the phone with Joe, and I said, look, we support you and we want to do everything we can to help you. We want to have my followers knock on doors for you. We want to boost your social media. Anything that you need, we want to help you. I said, and we don't even want to be publicly associated. I said, because we know that might hurt you. I said, the only thing that we ask in return is you can't disavow me if the media asks. And you can say whatever you need to say, but you can't disavow.
Wow. Well, that's one side. I guess we have to see and hear the other side, but that's not a good look. Comments before we go to the first clip by Peter Pry, warning about the threats from Iran. Your thoughts on what you've been hearing here, Annie?
If you check your email, I just sent you a tweet by Joe doing exactly what Nick Fuentes said was the deal breaker. And the video you just played is from 2025, but the original tweet from from Joe, there you go, is from 2022. So I understand they used to be apparently friends, but in March 3rd, 2022, Joe Kent actually said, I strongly condemn Nick Fuentes' politics, especially in regards to our ally, Israel. So apparently around that time, they had their fallout.
And he says, and I'm not aware of, nor do I accept any endorsement from him.
Yes.
Okay.
So this is the other side. You said, I figured you would want to hear the other side.
Yes, and there has to be, right? Here's the Economic Times. Nick Fuentes calls MAGA figures Marjorie Taylor Greene and Joe Kent fake America First in Tucker Carlson YouTube interview. So again, there's going to be a lot of back and forth. Now, the question is going to be to see how he responds Joe himself with interviews? And does he come out and start attacking the administration? What's he going to do here? This will be what's going to be very interesting to see.
Well, my next question, you might know the answer. Now he resigned. Are they going to continue investigating the accusations, or is that case closed now? Because that's important. Because if he resigned because he could have been fired, I don't think fired would be the end of it. If he was leaking information, there will be investigation. And if anything is proven, he would have faced charges. Mm-hmm. Is that going to continue, or just because he resigned, we're not going to hear about that either?
Well, I think all of us agree that we're probably going to see him on Tucker Carlson pretty quick. All right, let's go to the one of many clips we have of Dr. Peter Vincent Pry, former CIA analyst, sitting at this very desk, warning about the threats from Iran, which Joe said in his resignation letter, Iran really isn't a threat. But again, he told us there are 18,000 terrorists in the country tied to ISIS and Al-Qaeda. And we know that Iran has worked with ISIS and Al-Qaeda, right, Annie?
ISIS, most certainly. Al-Qaeda at some point, yes. But I go back to, how do we know? Remember, it is almost 50-50 when it comes to our intelligence. It's 50-50 to know who's tied to whom. Reason, there's always a chapter. For example, one of the most known leaders of Al-Qaeda used to be Muslim Brotherhood, who later was promoted to be a leader of Al-Qaeda. My point is, when you say 18,000 tied to Al-Qaeda and ISIS, where were they before that? IRGC? Sepah, Houthis, Hamas, were worried. That's why I agree with what you said. It doesn't matter who they're tied to today. Their root comes back to Quran and Muhammad. So they're all equally involved.
Yep. You can't say, oh, that's ISIS and Al-Qaeda, that's not Iran. Baloney. And yet he's the one that told us, and we played the clip, ironically, last night.
You did.
That we got 18,000 terrorists here in the U.S. tied to ISIS and Al-Qaeda. Well, then he comes out today and resigns and said Iran's not a threat. I mean, come on. He's not so dumb as to not know what you and I know in regards to these groups and how they flow like water from one bucket to another, depending on the time.
Oh, he knows.
Of course he knows.
And again, that's 18,000.
Which causes you to question this excuse of why he really resigned.
Exactly.
I'm not buying it. But
I'm
it's
not
a great
either.
resignation letter to put out if you want to now get onto the TV circuit with Tucker and all these other people, Megyn Kelly and the rest of them, right?
That's what I said. It is fashion. You put such a resignation letter out today, you won't lose a heartbeat. You're going to just switch from one side of being favored to the other side. You might even get bigger because, I'm sorry, nowadays, if you blame Israel, you become more famous. Popularity comes with anti-Israel, anti-Bibi, and anti-Semitism. That's where we're at.
That's where we're at. All right, we come back. Let's play a clip by Dr. Peter Vincent Pry. We got more we'll have to play tonight because I had the team go in there and grab all kinds of clips of him warning about Iran. And so again, this is to refute the idea by Joe Kent that Iran isn't a threat to us, which again, how would he know? Because reportedly he was cut out of intelligence briefings for fear he was leaking. And again, when was he cut out? I'd love for the White House to tell us when he was cut out of those briefings. Was that last week? Was that 2 months ago? Was that 3 months ago? Because
hey, was it during the 12 Days War?
Wow, last year, last summer? Because that's a lifetime in the intelligence arena. We'll be right back.
Consumers often ask, what should I expect when I take the Bella Grace elixir? And the answer's varied. It really depends on what your health and wellness needs are. I would consider this as your foundational core product for a whole range of health and wellness issues. Let me give you a few examples. If you're a little bit older and you have some joint health issues, some problems with mobility and discomfort, the elixir is going to be your best friend. If you have some skin health issues, wrinkles, hydration, aging, all of those elements are going to be benefited from the elixir, including age spots. Now, if you're in a younger demographic, maybe visual health is where you need some assistance. Eye fatigue, dry eyes, all of those are going to be benefited by the elixir. It's a core product because it benefits so many.
are making issue with Joe Kent's new wife. They're claiming that she is working with a lot of leftist groups and whatnot. But, that's another issue for another day. Let's go to one of the first clips of Dr. Peter Vincent Pry, former CIA analyst, warning a few years ago from this news desk about the threat from Iran. Listen to this.
Now, as I said, President Trump wisely authorized the elimination of General Soleimani, the world's top terrorist, last year. But the existential threat to Israel from Iran and the existential threat posed by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps to Israel and to the world, including the United States, still remains, despite the execution of Soleimani. Iran and the Iranian Revolutionary Guard are the most likely perpetrators of the next Holocaust. Iran is the world's leading sponsor of international terrorism, while the Iranian Revolutionary Guard is itself a terrorist organization, and it has been categorized as such by the U.S. State Department on April 9, 2019. On that date, President Trump issued a White House statement. Quoting President Trump, "This unprecedented step, led by the Department of State, recognizes the reality that Iran is not only a state sponsor of terrorism, but that the IRGC actively participates in finances and promotes terrorism as a tool of statecraft."
Well, very interesting. Annie, you want to respond to that?
I do. And he was, no question about it, he was brilliant in his area of expertise. But we need to make a quick correction here on what he said. IRGC is not the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps.
It's Islamic.
Thank you. That's exactly why what he just said is very important. And that's also why it's very important for a lot of people to understand why we're on week 3 of this war, because Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps was put together by Khomeini, the original supreme leader of Iran. He didn't put them together. He purposely didn't name them Iran Revolutionary Guard because they were put together in that time, 78 is exact when they were put together officially by Khomeini, to protect all Islamic revolutions, such as the Islamic Revolution in Iran in 1979 and any other revolution coming up. So, yes, their duty is to protect Islamic leaders and Islamic revolutions. Therefore, if they are not terminated, not crippled, not pushed back in a little bit like we did with ISIS, completely terminated, even if Iran is freed, even if the regime in Iran is toppled, the IRGC will continue having the authority to continue rebuilding, rearming, retraining, and putting these proxies out. They can just move from Iran to another place. Iran is their headquarters, but IRGC is everywhere. We have, Brannon, on your show, we have brought exclusive reporting from Iran International, naming IRGC members in Europe, in America, in Canada. So they're everywhere. I absolutely agree. Again, 47 years of imminent threat from Iran regime, and IRGC has been there. It's just a matter of time until people will genuinely realize that they are as dangerous as we say they are.
Mm. Here is Laura Loomer 36 minutes ago. She writes, Joe Kent's resignation this morning as director of the National Counterterrorism Center comes after increasing scrutiny regarding him potentially leaking to Tucker Carlson about his unmasking and a possible criminal referral by the CIA, according to a well-placed administration source. So the gut reaction from your hosts here was, I'm not buying this resignation letter that he doesn't think Iran is an imminent threat or a threat to the country. It just rang hollow, because he knows enough to know that if you're saying 18,000 terrorists are in the U.S., tied back to ISIS and Al-Qaeda, it really doesn't matter their name. Iran is behind this, or behind some of them, at least with their past history, if not funding and training, et cetera, et cetera. So here we go. What do you make of what Laura's saying, what she's reporting?
Well, my immediate response was the same, that this is more than a resignation. It definitely is more than a resignation. And the tone of that letter, when I look back at him giving that testimony in front of Congress that you played last night, that was not the same man writing that resignation letter. I agree. I don't have any verification into the leaking information to Tucker Carlson or not, so that's up to Loomer to confirm, or I might do some digging. But regardless, I take it back to, because, I like to zoom in and then zoom back into a bigger picture. The bigger picture, Brandon, I think, is we should be a little concerned, or at least pay attention to, why would such a thing happen in our administration?
Mm-hmm.
Is President Trump stretched so thin that he doesn't have enough energy or time to monitor I'm not asking for him to monitor everybody who's hired, but such a high-ranking position that is directly connected to safety of Americans inside America through terrorism and jihad. That man should have been vetted by President Trump
Well,
himself.
and you would think that guy would be in the Oval Office at least once a week.
Right. So the response of, I don't know much about him, has made me very concerned.
Because it makes me wonder how closely is President Trump, as you're saying, tuned into the existential threats to the lower 48, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, last night we did the math again on 18,000 terrorists. You divide that to the lower 48, that's 375 terrorists per state. You divide that into 5-man teams. That's 75 terrorist attacks by 5-man teams in all 48 states. They do that on the same day, the same time. That's, oof. And tonight I'm going to have John Gilda on my broadcast, who has been warning for years about the soft targets of our schools after he did a whole book on the Beslan terror incident. He's going to be on tonight. So the fact that this guy's not in the Oval Office on a weekly basis briefing the president, very concerning for sure. All right, we're going to keep track on this. I'm sure you'll be back on Brandon House Live tonight because we didn't even, how many more clips of Peter Pride do we have, Logan? Multiple. So we're going to have to do a whole segment on that tonight with you, Annie. We'll get with you on the time. Her website's liveuptofreedom.com, liveuptofreedom.com, liveuptofreedom.substack.com. Her new book, what's it called, Annie?
The Architecture of Jihad.
That's coming out soon. You can do pre-orders on Amazon, also at liveuptofreedom.com. Stay tuned for Crosstalk with Jim Schneider. Take care. And we're back with WROS out of Jacksonville, Florida, and you here on Worldview Tube. Logan, can we reach out? Annie, don't go anywhere. Can we reach out real quick to Aaron? My Red Alert app has not stopped going off, Logan. Let's see if we can add him. I know we only got a few minutes, but we should add him. If not, we'll get him on tonight's broadcast. But my Red Alert app is going off. Annie, in the meantime, respond to the killing of this dude, Iranian Supreme National Security savage Ali Larijani. I'm sure I'm saying it wrong, but he was taunting Trump on the streets last week in Tehran, and now he is deceased.
Ali Larijani was taken out a few hours ago by Israel. I literally devoted my morning to do a Substack on it, because I don't think most Americans even acknowledge what just happened. My face is pretty much speaking out right now. Ali Larijani started his career under Islamic Republic of Iran as the head of Iran's broadcasting. He was the man behind the machine of censorship and suppression in Iran early on. And then he handed the torch over to someone he trained to continue suppressing and censoring the media in Iran. And then he moved on to be the speaker at the parliament. From there, he moved on to be the head of all things security, internally and externally. Green Movement of 2009, every blood that was shed, every young man who was arrested and put in prison was Ali Larijani. Until today, every time you heard an uprising and a crackdown involved, that was Ali Larijani. Last year, after the 12 days war, it was Ali Larijani who put in the request for the $2 billion on Trump and $2 billion on Bibi's fatwa and it was approved by Supreme Leader. So not just some guy who was taken out. Off of all the leaders and heads of the regime that were taken out in last 2 weeks by Israel, Ali Larijani is the top name, even above the Supreme Leader. Literally today, Iranian people have 60% higher chance of toppling this regime than they had yesterday, because that position cannot be filled. Just like, as you can see, the vacuum for Supreme Leader has been wide open for last 2 weeks. This is going to stay wide open as well. And on my Substack, I explain exactly why we just went from possibility of regime topple to now absolute position of toppling this regime, just with this one man out this morning.
That's excellent news. Hold right there, Annie. Joining me now is our reporter on the ground in Israel, Aaron Lavarco. Aaron, my Red Alert app has been going off here at the desk. It's on mute, but it's been going off one after the other, after the other, after the other. What is the latest? I see you're in a car traveling, right?
I am, Brandon. Hi, Annie. Yeah, it's been a rough day, a busy day. I'm actually driving out of Tel Aviv area, and this is not kind of the area that you want to be at times like this.
Why are you leaving Tel Aviv?
Well, I had to go to an area nearby, a city called Rishon LeZion, and I had to drive back home through Tel Aviv. So it is what it is. And yeah, I've been seeing my cell phone with the alerts going off. The main missiles and drones, actually, they're mainly drone invasions from the north. Hezbollah are sending them over thick and fast as we are penetrating, and we are really feet on the ground now inside of South Lebanon. We're turning South Lebanon pretty much into Gaza because we cannot allow our northern residents to go and be put under the terror and the threat that, you know, they've been under for years.
Aren't you the drones getting through, Aaron?
They are getting through, sadly to say.
Do we have any casualties yet?
Not yet. Not that I've seen reports.
And where are you headed now?
I'm heading home to Netanya, which is about another 15 minutes north of where I'm driving now. I don't know if you've heard, but there's strong reports that the Houthis in the south are getting ready to join in, but they're only reports at this stage. That would really put pressure on the situation, as if there's not enough pressure, but that wouldn't be a total surprise if they got involved.
Okay, so your country's warning you guys all to be head on a swivel tonight. So they were expecting this to come in, right?
Well, yeah, it's been like that. I mean, it's day and night like that.
I know, I know that. But today, if you read your press in Israel, today they were specifically told an attack was coming.
Yeah, and I think the main reason why this is, from what I've been surveying and reading, is the Iranians are trying to put pressure on the economic world. And it's working. It's already starting to work. We're seeing that the pressure that's coming on Donald Trump, the pressure that's coming on our prime minister. That's the strategy. That's the tactic to ramp it up even more and to spread the resources out. But Donald Trump, I don't think he's being blindsided here, because yesterday he was calling on the other nations to get involved, like Japan.
But a lot of them are saying, no, it's your war. We're not getting involved.
I know, and he said, I won't forget. But there are some that have said that they will join in, and we'll have to see how this unfolds.
Well, of course, if they tick off Donald Trump, he's going to pull the funding from NATO. NATO's going to collapse.
Yeah,
and that's going to put more. That's going to put more power into his Gaza peace board that becomes the new UN.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. Now,
you can't make this up from a Bible prophecy standpoint, because all of a sudden these moves are just going to empower Trump more and more and more.
Isn't that interesting? It's so true.
I mean,
now,
you just keep waiting for there to be 10 people left on that board, right?
Yeah. He'll hold you accountable. And he's totally right on to ask people to get involved, because it's their economies that he's trying to help. I can't believe that they're saying no. It's really quite a shock. They're scared. They're scared of the backlash. So we all got to stay tuned.
The UK is covered with jihadists. So how can they get too involved? Their whole community, you got the London mayor and everybody else, the Muslim. Oh, yeah, they talk about terror cells. Woo. All right, the music's in my ear. We're going to get an update from Annie later today. Aaron Lavarco, be safe. Pray for him. Our reporter on the ground, brought to you by our foundation, worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com. If you appreciate us having him there, we need your support, because that's how we support him, to keep supporting us, meaning you and I, with these reports. Worldviewfoundation.com. May God save America and protect Israel. Take care.